Well, we've got someone else to listen to now. Academic and author Wendy Lawson has autism. She lives in Australia, so I spoke to her earlier this morning, or her evening, to get her perspective on how complicated conversation can be. I began by asking her whether she, as a person growing up with autism, had problems conducting conversations.
I didn't talk at all until after I was 4 years old, and then it took quite a long time to work out what was considered appropriate in conversation, and I still don't always get that right.
So what sort of things gave you, and perhaps still do, give you particular difficulty?
I'm pretty good now as a grown-up with metaphor, but certainly growing up as a child, metaphor was very difficult. People talk in ways that make sense to them and to seemingly lots of other people. Like they'll say, "I'll just be a minute," when in fact they're more like, 3 or 4.5 minutes or something. Or they'll say that they're just popping out, which is a very strange thing to say. That means they're going outside for something. You don't know if they're going to come back because they often don't finish a sentence. So that leaves a child with autism quite anxious about what's going on because they're only given part of the picture, not enough information. Not that they need to be overwhelmed with too much information, but it would be nice if people were clearer. And now I'm much older and I've learned lots of things about what people really mean, but it took a very long time for that to occur. And I also didn't understand that you're not supposed to say all the things that come into your mind. You're only supposed to talk about relevant topics to a conversation. And you're supposed to know where the full stops come and go and not string all your words together.
So what you seem to be saying is that each one of these processes, and there's quite a lot there that you're talking about, you had to consciously learn each one separately what the rules are in that kind of way in which we talk. Is that right?
That's right. I think it compares to perhaps somebody learning a foreign language that has different rules to the language they've grown up with. And as well as the language rules, there's all the social kind of codes that people have that they share with each other, that there's an expected understanding. You'll know what this means. And that is very hard as a child with autism. Yes, autistic children find that very difficult. And we're not really good at looking at people's faces and bodies whilst they talk, especially if we want to listen to what they say, because we're not really good at doing, like, multitasking. We're focused on one thing, and that tends to mean we exclude other things.
Well, this suggests to me then maybe talking isn't necessarily always the best way for you to express yourself. Is that right?
That's right. That's exactly right. And some of us communicate better through typing, writing, through a computer, through a machine like a light machine that might speak for us, and some through signing, some through pictures.
So do you find emails useful? Do you like using emails?
I'm not afraid. I'm, yes, much more home with email because I can pace myself, take time, process the information I need to say. Quite often I'll answer a question, and then these days I've learned, because I've been told that you're supposed to say hello to the person who's written to you and some comment on how are they, or good to hear from you, or something like that. So I go back to the beginning of an email and put that in after I've attended to the reason for the email, which was their question, or, something like that.
So in a way, you had to very consciously learn the procedure of asking a question that you're not going to get an answer to for maybe 3 weeks, like, how are you doing, how are you? You had to learn that as a very particular social procedure.
Yeah, yes, that's right. Yeah, it still seems quite a strange question, really.
Yes, it is.
Yeah, even at the supermarkets when you're paying, well, here in Australia, if you pay for something, quite often the person will say, how are you, or how are you going, or something like that, and that doesn't really mean that they need to know what's happening in your life. You're supposed to just say, good, thanks, and pay for your groceries and then move on. Kind of saying hello and goodbye without saying hello and goodbye.
Indeed, and there's even an answer where the person says, how are you doing? And you don't answer, you just say, and how are you? Without even answering, right. Which is even crazier, really. It's like two Londoners meet on the street and we say, all right? And the other person goes, all right?
Yes, that's exactly right. That's so funny.
Wendy Lawson there. Toby, was there anything there that you heard that rang some bells or struck you as very interesting?
Yes, I mean, it's. I think it throws an interesting light on conversation itself. For a conversation to proceed, it's actually quite essential that both parties don't listen too carefully to what each other is saying. If you attend too carefully to what someone is saying, and you try and literally grasp what they're saying just from what they're actually saying, the words they're using, often what they're saying is so ambiguous, it's so threaded through with ambiguities, it's so impossible to decipher if you're attending very carefully to it, often because they don't actually know what they mean themselves. It's impossible to actually have a conversation. You just embark on a kind of Socratic dialogue in which you just have to ask them more and more questions about what they're actually saying. And actually, a lot of conversational responses are very ritualized. You're responding to something coded or a gesture, not something they're actually saying.